The empathy protocol, the war no one wins. What if the enemy didn't aim for your body? What if they aimed straight for your soul? Imagine standing on the battlefield, not against plasma fire or kinetic missiles, but against the ghost of your deepest regret, your greatest fear, the faces of those you failed. This is the truth of the Kaelian War. They didn't seek to destroy our ships, they sought to shatter our minds. And to fight back, humanity had to unlock a weapon more powerful, and more terrifying, than any bomb, pure, unadulterated emotion. For all our scientific advancements, humanity always believed war would remain a contest of physics and firepower. We prepared for the cold logic of lasers and armor. We were catastrophically wrong. When the Kaelians arrived, they didn't bring massive warships or planet-destroying superweapons. Their vessels were elegant, almost crystalline, moving through space with a silent, hypnotic grace. Their appearance ethereal, luminous, with a biology we still struggle to understand, masked the most devastating weapon ever encountered: psychic projection. The first engagement was a massacre of the mind. Our fleet engaged them near Jupiter's moon, Io. On paper, it was a tactical advantage for us. But minutes into the fight, our comms erupted not with enemy chatter, but with the sounds of our own pilots screaming. Screaming not in pain, but in terror and despair. Reports from the few survivors were fractured and horrifying. Pilots weren't seeing the Kaelian ships, they were seeing their worst memories playing out in their cockpits. They relived the moments they pulled the trigger on a friendly fire incident, the image of a child they couldn't save from a burning habitat, or the crushing guilt of a promise they broke. These were highly trained, battle-hardened veterans, reduced to catatonic wrecks or committing suicide by ship within minutes. The Kaelians didn't need to fire a single shot to disable our fleet. They simply overwhelmed our combatants with their own psychological demons, forcing them to self-destruct. We weren't fighting an army, we were fighting the amplified, weaponized versions of our collective trauma. The war quickly became known not as the galactic conflict, but as the war of reflection. Every military force on Earth was paralyzed. How do you shoot down a regret? How do you shield yourself from the guilt of 1,000 lifetimes? The standard defenses were useless. We were losing the war inside our own heads. The desperate solution emerged from the most unlikely place, a deep-sea research lab in the former Pacific trenches. Meet Dr. Eris Thorne, a neurolinguistic programmer who specialized in collective human memory and the power of shared narrative. She wasn't a soldier, but she understood the human mind better than anyone. Dr. Thorne theorized that the Kaelian weapon wasn't just amplifying individual fear, it was tapping into the universal well of human negativity, the fear of abandonment, the terror of isolation. She realized the only way to counter a psychic wave of despair was with an equally powerful, coherent wave of hope. Her idea was simple, but revolutionary: the empathy protocol. The protocol wasn't a shield, it was a counterattack. It involved creating a massive, focused psychic broadcast, a signal loaded with the most potent, universally recognized positive human emotions, the memory of a first kiss, the feeling of selfless sacrifice, the triumph of human engineering, the love of a parent for a child. A collective, curated tapestry of everything that makes life worth fighting for. The problem: broadcasting such a powerful emotional signal required a focus group of the most emotionally resilient and interconnected minds on the planet. and they needed a massive transmitter, powerful enough to pierce the Kaelian psychic curtain. The site chosen was the newly completed Ascension Array on the dark side of the moon. A skeleton crew of UEDF personnel, led by the perpetually skeptical but loyal Colonel Marcus Ironsteel, were tasked with protecting Thorn and her team of psychologists, philosophers, and artists, the only people who could truly save humanity. As Thorn's team prepared the initial broadcast, the Kaelian fleet arrived. This time, they weren't silent, the air inside the moon base filled with a deafening, invisible chorus of anguish. Colonel Steele, standing guard, suddenly saw the faces of every soldier he'd ever lost, accusing him, judging him. His hand instinctively went to his sidearm, ready to end the torment. "Colonel, fight it?" Thorn's voice cut through the internal noise. "Remember the day you held your daughter for the first time? Focus on that." The battle for the moon base was fought on two fronts: the physical, where Steele's soldiers tried to hold back the advancing, ethereal Kaelian infantry, and the mental, where every human was fighting their own personal demon. Finally, Thorn hit the switch. The effect was instantaneous and breathtaking. A wave of pure, concentrated joy and collective memory surged from the Ascension Array. It wasn't a weapon designed to kill, but one designed to connect. When the wave hit the Kaelian ships, the enemy didn't explode. They didn't fall apart. They simply stopped. The relentless psychic assault against the humans vanished. And for a moment, the humans felt something else, a wash of confusion, then a profound, agonizing sadness coming from the Kaelians. It was the Kaelians' turn to reflect. They were being exposed, perhaps for the first time, to the rich, complex, and overwhelmingly positive emotional depth of the species they had only seen as a source of fear and chaos. They were exposed to empathy. The battle did not end in triumph. The Kaelians didn't suddenly surrender, they simply retreated, their crystalline ships shimmering away into the void, leaving behind a silence that was now heavier than before. The empathy protocol had worked, not by destroying the enemy, but by confusing their purpose. The war was paused. Not won. The Kaelians had been introduced to the humanity they were trying to eradicate. And now, they had to grapple with it. The war of reflection became the stalemate of empathy. The Kaelians never launched a full-scale psychic assault again. Why? Because they felt the resistance. They experienced the depth of human love and resilience. And in doing so, they tasted their own internal contradictions. Dr. Thorn proved that the ultimate weapon against a psychic attack wasn't a mind shield, but a shared memory of happiness. It was the power of our unity, not our division. But the war is far from over. The Kaelians are still out there, silent and contemplative, grappling with the flood of human emotion. The question now isn't if they'll attack again, but how they will attack now that they truly know us. The burden of this war is now a heavy one. We saved ourselves, but in doing so, we essentially gave the enemy a complete, unfiltered look into our hearts and minds. We gave them the blueprint for our greatest strengths, and perhaps, our deepest vulnerabilities. And that, my friends, is a war no one can truly win. That's a heavy concept, isn't it? The idea that our love is the only thing that can save us. If this deep dive into psychic warfare and the power of human connection resonated with you, I have a challenge for you. First, show your support for these emotionally complex sci-fi narratives by liking this video and letting us know which part of the empathy protocol you found most compelling in the comments below. Second, if you want to explore the ultimate ramifications of this truce, and see the next mind-bending chapter of the Kaelian War, make sure you subscribe and enable notifications. We're tracking this story closely. And if you want to understand the technology that made Dr. Thorne's work possible, check out the video I've linked right here on your screen, The True Power of Human Collective Consciousness, Fact or Fiction. Click that, and let us keep challenging our minds together. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, the mind is the last frontier, and the strongest weapon.